Introducing Maya Allen, Emma Ladd, Sophia Shep, and Matilda Hulse
from Mr. McCormick's 1B.
Hello, Matilda. Say hello.
Hello.
Hey.
That's a close-up. Whoa.
Glycolysis is the first stage in cellular respiration. Glycolysis begins with the preparatory phase, where one molecule of glucose is transformed into intermediates when phosphate groups are donated from an ATP. Once the ATP donates a phosphate group, it's turned into ADP. This happens twice in the preparatory phase. The final product of the preparatory phase is 2 molecules of G3P. These molecules go on to begin the energy payoff phase. The second stage of glycolysis is the energy payoff phase. This begins with the 2 molecules of G3P. The G3P molecules are oxidized in a redox reaction and NAD+ is reduced to NADH. Then the molecules of the G3Ps donate a phosphate group to ADP. This undergoes substrate phosphorylation and forms ATP. This process occurs 4 different times in the energy payoff phase of glycolysis, which produces 4 ATP during this phase. A byproduct of the G3P reactions is water, or H2O. The final product of the G3P energy payoff phase is 2 pyruvate molecules, which are 3 carbon molecules that are sent to the pyruvate grooming in the next stage of cellular respiration. The net gain from glycolysis is 2 ATP, 2 NADHs, 2 H2Os, which are byproducts, and 2 pyruvates.
Hello! So, glycolysis produces 2 pyruvate from 1 glucose. Each pyruvate undergoes a series of reactions called pyruvate grooming, which is in the mitochondria. The pyruvate loses a carbon molecule which goes somewhere. The leftover carbon compound is then oxidized by losing electrons, and then the electrons go to NAD+, which changes to NADH. The oxidized 2 carbon compound then attaches to coenzyme A, forming acetyl-CoA, which moves to the Krebs cycle.
Yay!
The Krebs cycle is the third stage of cellular respiration, and it occurs in the mitochondrial matrix. The Krebs cycle begins with acetyl coenzyme A, which is a product from pyruvate grooming. Acetyl-CoA splits off, and the coenzyme A goes back to pyruvate grooming, while the 2 carbon compound combines with oxaloacetate to form citrate, which is then oxidized, and CO2 parts off, while the electrons go to NAD+, which is reduced to NADH since it gained charged electrons. At this time, an ADP molecule, due to substrate level phosphorylation, is turned into ATP. While this is going on, the citrate, since it is oxidized, turns into alpha-ketoglutarate, which is a 5 carbon compound. The 5 carbon compound then has another CO2 split off, is oxidized, and the charged electrons again go to NAD+, which is reduced to NADH. The alpha-ketoglutarate turns into succinate, a 4 carbon compound. That is then oxidized, and the charged electrons go to FAD+, which is reduced to FADH2. The succinate turns into malate, another 4 carbon compound, since no CO2 was released. The malate is oxidized and goes to NAD+, which is reduced to NADH from the gained electrons. Then the malate turns into oxaloacetate, and the cycle starts again. Since each glucose molecule produces 2 acetyl coenzyme A's, the cycle turns twice per glucose molecule, and the final products for 2 turns is 2 ATP molecules, 4 CO2 molecules, 6 NADH molecules, and 2 FADH2 molecules. And that is the Krebs cycle.
The electron transport chain is the last phase in cellular respiration. It occurs in the chrysalia of the mitochondria. starts when the high energy electron carrier NADH is oxidized and its electrons go into the electron transport chain, which is this thing. Okay, so they start out with a high potential energy right here, and as they move down, they lose their energy, and they end up with a low potential energy. But they lose their energy, not really. It's transferred, and it helps the active transport of hydrogen ions across the membrane, and that later helps in ATP synthase. Okay, so when the electron gets to the bottom, it's combined. It is received by oxygen, the final electron acceptor, which combines with a hydrogen ion, and it makes H2O, which is breathed out as water vapor. Okay, so now what to do with all of these hydrogen ions. So we have a high concentration gradient over here and a low over here. So that means that these are going to want to flow that way. So they come over here and flow through ATP synthase, and because that's passive transport, and it spins the wheel, and this is called chemiosmosis, and it produces ATP by combining ADP with a phosphate, and that's called oxidative phosphorylation because it uses nutrients to make ATP. And yeah, so that's how ATP is made, but the only thing to remember, okay, so NADH goes through 1, 2, 3, whereas FADH2 goes through 1, 2, just because it comes later.